Today. Who here remembers the first time they saw an article in the paper about the Google autonomous car? Right. When I first saw that, I immediately thought to myself, this is fabulous. This is really the answer to my parents' transportation issues. Father's 85, my mother's 82. They live in Manhattan, have a great public transportation system, but because of their health issues, it's really a challenge. So my mind immediately starts racing, okay, autonomous car, voice activated, zip car model, and I start putting the business case together for what this business is gonna be, only to then do research, ethnographic research with Google, and AARP looking at this car, and we realized, well, one, it's still a little expensive. You know, several hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Two, it's ugly as sin because it has these gizmos all over it, even when it's on a Lexus. And it's going to be a while. But that said, I started talking with friends of mine, and Nick here from OnStar, he and I have a mutual friend, Clay Phillips at GM, and I started talking to Clay. He says, oh yeah, we've been working on that kind of stuff for years. And then, I don't know if people are aware, Toyota and Audi made announcements here at CES about autonomous vehicles. So, and Isaac, is basically, his technology is just going to keep us safe and is going to be embedded, and it already is embedded in anybody here who has a car coming off the assembly line today. So we started thinking about, you know, just how all of this starts to come together, very, very cool technologies, embracing multiple different things that some of which we've seen earlier today, but all of which also has, you know, really significant potential for the future of transportation, the future of mobility, and makes assumptions also about what the future of cities are going to be, what the future of the context for this transportation. So we're going to do a quick, Nick is going to do a quick presentation. Isaac and I are gonna, he'll have an opportunity to also do a quick presentation, sans slides. And then we'll get some questions from the audience, and we'll go from there. So, Nick Pudar.
All right. Well, welcome everybody, and thank you for having me today. This is my second year at the Silver Summit, and it's a pleasure to be back. And you know, a lot of things have been changing in this arena of driver safety for quite some time. And I'm very passionate about this because this is all about what OnStar has been about for 16 years, which is safety, security for occupants of the vehicle and their families. Interesting. Interesting overlay. Well, that's all right. We'll figure this out. So, you know, 16 years ago is when GM had the foresight, the fortitude to invest in this technology of putting connectivity in vehicles. And you know, the premise of the whole business has been about providing our customers peace of mind, and a broad range of services, crash response, vehicle diagnostics that get sent to you via email, driving instructions, just stolen vehicle recovery, stolen vehicle slowdown. If a bad guy takes a car and gets to the high-speed chase, we can actually, with the right protocols with police, slow the vehicle down. And we've done quite a few of those over the years. And you know, the thing about this connectivity in vehicles is that it was really hard. And when we first started, all the suppliers and consultants and all the intelligentsia told us that this was really easy because you're taking some pretty easy, mundane technology such as call centers and vehicle electronics and cellular technology and GPS, and it's all well known, well executed, and just, you know, slap it all together and it should work just fine. Well, I don't know if they were lying or they just didn't know, but making it all work seamlessly for our customers so they don't have to think about the technology was very, very hard. And along the way, we've generated quite a few patents in this space. We've got now well over 900 patents that we've applied for, and I think about 300 plus have been granted, and we expect most of these are going to get granted because it's fresh space that we're operating in. Now, at the root of all this connectivity is safety. And so when we think about this, you can think about, well, what do you do with all the technologies in front of us? The question I'd like to ask is, what should we be doing? And to borrow a phrase from Alan Kay, the inventor of the personal computer, he says the best way to predict the future is to build it, to create it yourself. And so, that's how we're thinking about all of this stuff. What should it be? How should it work? And then you work backwards and you put that stuff in place. And we take this at OnStar quite seriously. Now, the initial implementation of our system, it required us to focus on key aspects of providing this connectivity in a way that provided simplicity of driving. And that was really one of the key things that guided us. Now today, when we look at the 230 plus million Americans aged 13 and older, they use a lot of mobile devices. I think 50% now plus customers use smartphones. People are checking updates on Facebook. They're doing a lot of stuff. They expect that their digital lives are going to work seamlessly in everything they do. And I don't know who originated this phrase, but for the driving task, some people are beginning to think that driving is the distraction. Everything else is important in our lives. So, this technology is changing our lives forever. I mean, how many people at the dinner table now, the conversation, inevitably somebody pulls out a smartphone to answer a question that somebody had. It just happens. It's that connectivity, that access is expected to be there all the time. And we see that expected access to exist everywhere, including in the vehicle when you're driving. So the challenge for all of us in the industry is, how do you do this in a way that provides safe operation of the vehicle working? And the thing we've seen also is that this applies to all age groups. There's always the thought this is for young people. Well, there's a lot of old people that use iPads. Why? Because it's well executed, well designed, and it's just easy to use, and that access becomes expected. So at GM, we carefully consider and thoroughly develop and validate communication systems, the information entertainment systems. Our systems are designed to manage cognitive load by focusing the driver's hands and wheel, eyes on the road. And we've worked really hard to apply these principles in our evolution of this technology, and this is the Cadillac Q system. It's the Cadillac user experience. And these key principles is the driving force behind everything that we do. So to accomplish these principles, the guidelines need to promote intuitive designs. People should not have to think about what to do next. It should just be very obvious. People don't like to read manuals. They're not going to read manuals. Matter of fact, sometimes infotainment, entertainment system manuals are getting thicker than the rest of the car's manual. So, that's not a direction that customers want. We want well-placed displays, ways to minimize the eyes off the road time, seamless connection with mobile devices so that you don't have to think about managing the connectivity. It just works. You get in the car, it just works. Recognizable, legible icons, organized, uncomplicated controls, and on and on. There's a set of industry guidelines that GM is participating in with other OEMs and with NHTSA and other agencies to make sure that we have a set of principles, guidelines that we should use to design these systems. And of course, system responsiveness is also important, because when you press a button, you expect it to respond right away. You don't like latency. Now, today, when a customer purchases a vehicle, the infotainment features that are in that vehicle are generally in that vehicle for the rest of the vehicle's life. They don't get updated, they don't get modified, and if some aspect of that technology is no longer relevant, think 8-track tapes, cassettes, even in some cases CDs. People are not really using CDs anymore. That stuff is in the vehicle, it's legacy stuff, and people don't really care for that. So the challenge for us is, how do we develop vehicles so that the technology that is relevant to our digitally connected lives continues to evolve with the vehicle well after the point of purchase? So what we've done is we've created an app framework where customers will be able to access a GM app catalog that will continue to grow over time and expand and be updated and have relevant content, where customers can download those applications into their vehicles and have what's relevant to them. Not what is relevant to the mass market that somebody in our organization felt this is what everybody should have, so we're going to invest in putting this in the car. No, we all know how apps work. There's a lot of them. Some are meaningful, some are relevant. You will find the right ones that are relevant to you, and they can be designed for your own specific needs. And so for the aging population, I could imagine some things being significantly less cluttered, significantly focused in its functionality and execution, much more in tune with the legibility. So this is part of GM's commitment to bringing customer-centric, consumer-centric technology to our vehicles. And we're also focusing on developers, because the people who have to build these apps, they're a critical part of this ecosystem. And so we've just recently launched a SDK. It's a software developer kit for third-party developers so they can have access to both in-vehicle APIs, those are the things that can pull information from vehicles, as well as the OnStar remote APIs, which allow apps on smartphones and websites and tablets to be able to access the vehicle remotely. And this provides solutions for families so that as an aging parent who is driving, the family can actually keep tabs on if they're where they're supposed to be. If we can set geofencing boundaries and provide input to the family about situations. We can also expect to see apps over time where the vehicle is actually monitoring the performance and the driving behavior of the vehicle and provide feedback and training and to be able to see when some skills and reflexes begin to atrophy over time. So there's a lot of ways that we can use this technology to have meaningful, relevant apps for the individuals in the vehicle. So we actually participated in an AT&T Developer Summit here this past weekend, and we had 450 developers working on 36 straight hours of app hackathon competition, and we had about 20 teams that had leveraged our SDKs and had built some pretty innovative things for these vehicles. Now on the show floor, our demonstration vehicles show some of these apps that are coming into the vehicles, and then we're going to be talking about a lot more that come through the catalogs over time. Now, as additional apps become available, people can choose whatever they want, whenever they want. Now, the idea of connecting customers in a smart way that makes sense for their lives keeps them moving without hassle. It's a driving force around how we're thinking about this technology for CES and how we've thought about leveraging these APIs so that the intuition, the creativity of the developer community, and the feedback of customers and how they access those apps and how they provide feedback to developers, we're going to see a lot more innovation growing at a much rapid pace. And the fact that you can then put these in your vehicle after you've bought the vehicle makes the vehicle ever so much more valuable for our customers. Now, Gartner has projected that there will be about 21 billion app downloads just from Apple's App Store this year, and that's about a 75% increase from last year. And so this app mentality, this app framework in the mind is very natural and will continue to be more natural for people. So this is a very natural thing for us to be doing. So the exciting thing here is that GM is very committed to pushing hard in this direction of an app framework, making our vehicles ready and relevant for the future, and making sure that the developer community has the tools they need to create great innovative solutions for all age categories, and particularly for the aging population, to give them that personal freedom of driving when they want to, but give them the feedback and their families the peace of mind that they need. Thank you very much.
Great. Thanks, Nick. Isaac Littman is co-founder and founder of Mobileye. And I have to say that Isaac has already had me as a guinea pig in a car that was retrofitted with Mobileye's technology. And why don't you just, Isaac, just tell us a little about the founding of the company, the technology, its origins, and most importantly for the audience, like where can they find this, which car is coming off the line, and then if you wanted to get really interesting, if you were to overlay Mobileye's technology onto what OnStar was doing, what would that car look like?
Okay. So thank you, Jody. I think Mobileye was founded in 1999, and what we realized very quickly is that today's car accidents are because of one factor, the human factor. 10, 20, 30 years ago, the death toll was much steeper, and there were three main factors for car accidents: the driver, the infrastructure, and the car. In recent years, the infrastructure and the cars have improved dramatically, and I think that even OnStar or OnStar is another example of how the manufacturers deploy technologies in order to make the cars safer. However, the driver is still at fault. We know today that 93% of the accidents are because of the driver. of which 80% are because of driver inattentiveness during 3 seconds before a collision. People are driving, but they are doing so many things. They are eating, they are grooming, they are shaving, they are talking, smoking, shouting at the kids at the back seat, thinking about what happened yesterday with their spouses. You name it. You know it. How many times did it happen to you when you drove from point A to your work, from your home to your work, and when you arrived, you didn't remember what happened in between? You start to drive like machines. You do not exercise discretion. So what we realized is that something needs to happen in order to help the driver drive better. What can happen to help the driver? So the first answer is take the driver out of this equation. And this is where we talk about autonomous vehicles. And I have to tell you, I like to drive, but I know that 20, maybe 30 years from now, we'll have to go to Orlando to a Disney theme park to drive cars. It's not if, it will happen. I mean, today, Google is an example of an autonomous vehicle that has $300,000 worth of technology that helps the vehicle be autonomous. But we are going to roll out cars that will be autonomous, that will not be more expensive, and people will let it happen. And why is that? Because it will be more convenient. You won't have to drive to work. The car will drive you. You will be able to read the newspaper. You will be able to enjoy your coffee. Okay? And that's eventually what will happen, and we will take the human factor out of this equation. In the meanwhile, we have to help the driver. How do we help him? Mobileye, according to our name, what we have done is we used artificial vision and machine learning technologies in order to create, you can call it a bionic eye. What is a bionic eye? A bionic eye is a camera that can see. It's not only when you take your smartphone and you take a picture of something, you have a picture. The smartphone does not understand what happens in that picture. When you take a highly smart camera and it takes a picture, the camera understands what happens in that frame. It understands where the lanes are, where are the other cars, buses, trucks. What is the speed sign that you have just passed? Is there any pedestrian running to your lane? So when you have such a smart camera and you install it in a car, the car can see. If the car can see, the car can do all sorts of things. So for instance, if you take the Volvo that is one of our OEM partners, the car can apply the brakes automatically if the car can see that you are about to hit someone. If you talk about other manufacturers, the car can give you a warning before an impending accident. Take, for instance, the Chevy Equinox or the Ford Explorer or the Honda Accord 2013 or all of the other cars that we are working with. We work with about 90% of the industry because we are the only company. When we started our technology, it was conceived that it's impossible to do it with a single camera. Why not? Because they said, you need to have 2 cameras in order to have depth of field, and a single camera, it cannot drive. And we said, if a man or a woman with one eye can drive, you can do it with a single camera. A single camera means that it's easier to manufacture and to service and to install, but it's more complicated to create the software and the algorithm behind it. So what we did, our solution is comprised of a single forward-looking camera. It's a camera that's installed behind the rearview mirror, on the front windshield, inside the driver's cabin. And it's constantly looking forward in front of the car. We can see up to 500 feet ahead of the car, and at night we can even see up to 1,000, 2,000 feet. We can provide the driver with a timely warning before an accident, whether it's a rear end, whether it's a child running into his lane, whether he drove for many hours and he became drowsy, or he was inattentive and he started to veer off his lane and is about to collide with the truck that is coming from the opposite lane. So once you have such a collision avoidance system that is based on a single camera that is easy to install, easy to maintain, you can also provide that solution easily and relatively cost-effectively to the industry. So now, as I said, we are working with about 85, maybe 90% of the manufacturers, and that solution is also available as a retrofit solution. So you do not have to go and buy a new BMW. It can be a good excuse, but you can retrofit your car. When I met with Jody, I brought one of our guys' car to drive. It was a 2003.
It was not a new car.
Volkswagen Passat. And evidently, It didn't do any detailing in the last 3 years, I think. So you can feel it in the car. But nevertheless, you can have the most highly sophisticated artificial vision application in the car working in order to help the driver avoid cases where he's inattentive or avoid cases that he might not be inattentive, but he does not foresee a little bit more than what is going to happen. So the direction is to help the drivers. We celebrated about 3 months ago the 1 millionth system that is installed in the out there, and we know from the feedbacks that we get back that collision avoidance or reduction of accidents is anywhere between 25 and 37%. Taking that to an age of people that are a little bit older, maybe their vision is not as it used to be, maybe their reflexes are not as they used to were, and allowing them to enjoy a technology that you don't have to be a space scientist in order to use it. It's in the car, it's super simple. Either you get a warning or you do not. So you can use that and you can take advantage of that technology in order to keep your mobility, to be able to enjoy life, not to be confined in a certain area because you gave up driving, and still not pose a threat to society. And we know from statistics that drivers, as they are getting older, the risk level of these drivers when it comes to car accidents is returning to the high levels that was their risk level when they start to drive. So by using a smart camera artificial vision that gives you a forward collision warning, a lane departure warning, pedestrian collision warning, that can read the traffic signs for you, that can help you in the task of driving, of everyday driving, we provide the drivers with some assistance, and that's why it's called driver assistance system, some assistance to make sure that when he drives from his home to his work, even if he doesn't remember what happened in between because you cannot change the driver, he will be much safer.
So some of the outcomes that we see here are clearly people can stay on the road behind the wheel longer. That would be one, seems like. Two is you're able to actually let go of the wheel more, figuratively and perhaps going forward literally. So what does this do to, how does the infrastructure, the legal system, I mean, there's a bunch of other things, you know, I always say context is everything, right? But the context has to change to some degree. What our assumptions are about cars in the city, right? As far as Bloomberg's concerned, keep them out. And you know, luckily I don't have to pay those tolls. But
Sure, I mean, the car manufacturers, and we were initially in 1999 when we started to move with the technology, there was a great fear that this will drive liability, this will drive claims, and that we'll be in dire situation very soon. So the technology acceptance stage was longer. But car manufacturers saw Volvo that even when they apply the brakes in the city before an accident, there are no claims. People understand. We try to help you if you do not respond. And by the way, also today, the car companies, the manufacturers, they do not apply the brakes automatically. They give you a warning and another warning, and only at the last 0.6 seconds when they see that you're not going to act, they apply the brakes for you. So nothing happened within the years. And as time goes by and no claims are being filed and the technology acceptance level rise, they get more, first of all, they get more self-confident. And second, they get more ambitious because they understand what can be done with that technology. I mean, today we talk about applying the brakes, but today we are also this is something that is already available. Tomorrow we talk about emergency maneuvering the cars, moving the car to an empty area instead of applying the brakes. Why? Because maybe it's a bus and you do not want to apply the brakes because you will have collateral damage at the back. We also do other things such as introducing the market with the initial technologies of autonomous driving. People are talking about autonomous driving with all sorts of gizmos on the car. The car starts to look like a moving pyramid. But in the end of the day, that will not be the story. The story will be very smart and small sensors in the car that can see the way. You don't even have to have a very smart infrastructure around you. You don't have to invest billions of billions in infrastructure. The car, you don't have to invest billions in infrastructure so people can move, can walk, because they can see. If the car can see, the car can also react. So what we do, and in 2013, 2014, the first autonomous technologies will be in the market. which is stop and go, the ability to drive in traffic jams and traffic lights. The car will actually drive itself. When you come to a traffic jam, you don't have to keep your hands, you don't have to drive the car. You will have initially to keep your hands on the steering wheel, so you have some sort of control over the car. But we will steer the car, we will keep it in its lane, and we will drive after the car after you. And we are not talking 20 years from now, we talk a year or two from today. And this will be the first step towards autonomous vehicle. The manufacturers will get more self-confident, they will see that they are not getting claims. The legislator will see that, hey, people are enjoying it. It helps them go through the traffic jams. No more. In the US, by the way, 10–15% of the accidents are bumper-to-bumper accidents. People run to each other in the traffic lights and the traffic jams at low speeds, 10 miles per hour. So the gradual move of technology. And by the way, today, we can introduce autonomous vehicles that the increase of cost for the car in order to be fully autonomous is not more than $1,000. But it will take more time. It will take more time, technology acceptance, self-confidence by the manufacturers, by the legislators, by the drivers, and you will see it more and more. You will take care of it. You will take advantage over the ability to drive such an autonomous vehicle in traffic jams. And sooner you will see that you are taking advantages over it in other situations.
Nick, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was going to comment on, so I don't disagree with hardly anything you said. And I think, Jody, what you said earlier, it's the context of the rest of the societal systems, the interactions of all the systems that are going to put a lot of checks and balances in when this truly autonomous will be acceptable to society. I mean, even the best autonomous vehicles on the road today are not really autonomous. They have a person at the ready behind the wheel. So the question of when will society allow an inattentive occupant to be in an autonomous vehicle, with today's completely unconstrained road systems and intersection rules, and it'll be some time. So there are some autonomous vehicles, the trams at the airports. I mean, they're very constrained environments. And so there is a vehicle today that is completely autonomous. It can depart, it can travel, and it can stop completely on its own, and that's an airplane. And yet, with autopilots, we still have at least 2 pilots who are not allowed to be inattentive. And
or
why?
Drunk.
Or drunk. And why? Because human judgment handles the uncertainties that you cannot design around with the environment. And so, will we have autonomous vehicles? Yes, someday we will. Will society work its way through those issues and challenges and the liability? Absolutely, we'll work through all that. How long will it take? Who knows? But along that journey, we will have some phenomenal new technologies that will make the vehicles ever so much more safer to drive, to be in, and it'll actually help the mortality and morbidity in our society. I mean, anti-lock brakes, it's a version of autonomous driving. Electronic stability control, it's a version of autonomous driving. So we have elements of this that is going to be building and just creeping up on us. And then as we, at the same time, through city planning, build the appropriate constraints in the roadways, we will see this sort of knee occur where it'll feel a lot more interesting.
So will the car insurers start to pay for this? I mean, I see this as, so for example, my premium goes down if I have, an alarm system. If these technologies are embedded and I statistically can, there's enough data over time to demonstrate that, the risk of collision goes down and I have it, am I going to get X amount off of my premiums?
No, the insurance industry, they price risk. And as these technologies eliminate risk, they can't price for it. And so this technology will disrupt the insurance industry. It will have a different role. It will have a different aspect of risk is going to be priced for. So
yeah,
we'll shift.
And what about the point you were suggesting, Isaac, that we're really talking about $1,000? I mean.
Well, maybe, so that's an excellent direction, and I would like to add it to what Nick was talking about. Autonomous vehicle is an intriguing subject, sexy, yes, let's talk about autonomous vehicle, but the technology is available today. It's a sub $1,000 technology that you can get in your car, or when you buy a car, you make sure the same way that you want to have airbags, you want to have safety or collision avoidance systems. So, and this will help you making sure that your risk level when you drive, even if you're an excellent driver, is lower. A word about insurance companies. Mobileye is an Israeli company. We're located in Jerusalem. We have about 350 engineers there. And I moved to the US recently, about 6 months ago, to focus on the US market. And I live in New York, and I had to be insured, of course. I'm a young driver, considered to be a young driver. And I was told you can get 10% discount if you go and do, there is a 6 hours course that you go and do, and then the insurance company give you a 10% discount.
AARP delivers that course.
So you go to that insurance course, and you learn in the 6 hours you get out of the door, and these 6 hours remain with you. I'm not sure for how long. And when we talk about the insurance companies, the move to allow for a discount for a system that reduces the risk is something that will happen. It already happens, not in the US because we are in the early stages, but it happens in Israel, it happens in Europe. And I think that in the end of the day, on top of the fact that the technology is available today, insurance companies will also provide benefits.
Do we have time for one question? One question. Who's got one question? You're going to make it very easy for them. All right, in the back there.
Where?
Hi, Scott Schmidt with the Alliance of Automobile Manufacturers. One quick question on the autonomous view. I know that's the buzz of everything. But it seems to me, and maybe you can comment, that we really probably need to start working on the judicial and legal system. One of the things I've noticed is you can have a system that saves 1,000 people. You don't make any money, they don't pay any money into it. But if that same system kills one person or harms them, you pay. And when you take and say, car, drive me, I think you're saying that that car is now assuming liability for its actions. And maybe these are things that need to be kind of thought out, because it seems to me we would need to be working on some sort of system that allows us to manage that risk so that we acknowledge that it's in the greater good, but there may be crashes, just like humans do, that are unpreventable. You crest a hill and there's glare ice. No amount of smarts is going to be able to control that car once you crest that hill and hit that ice. So it seems to me that it's a great technology, but I haven't heard of anything to try to move forward on some of those legal issues that I personally see as maybe a barrier to it.
By the way, the Google car, just to contradict Vint from this morning, actually did have one accident, but it was when a human being ran into it. All right.
Great.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you. You guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for panel. And if